Enraged, I swung the shovel like a barbarian's axe, and the legs toppled. While they flailed over the guardrails, I could swear to God I heard them utter a soft, high-pitched, "Uh-oh." From another direction came a throbbing heart, the size of a small car. Ambling along in its branching veins, an equally gigantic steak knife protruding from its center like a metallic snout. It reared back, raising itself a full 8 feet on its tendrils, and let out a high-pitched rat-like squeak. Nope! I attempted to flee down another branch of the metal web, but my course was soon interrupted by a clattering, scarecrow-like assemblage of bronze shards and flimsy sinew, chattering its many fractured dog-like skulls as it swung a large, saw-toothed jawbone at my stomach. I struck back with my own weapon, its skulls splintering even further beyond recognition. And my adrenaline was surging. As single-minded as the gore-faced hordes themselves, I demolished one twisted child of Satan's deli after another. I toppled shuffling golems of pork scraps, wailing ghouls of dripping lard, a serpentine mass of fused chicken feet, and even that giant squeaking heart, its arteries dousing me with geysers of hot blood as its throbbing at last subsided. I was almost disappointed at how easy it had been. I shouldn't have been. As I stood in a puddle of mashed viscera, blood, and who knows what else streaming off my face, I heard a mysterious clang echo through the vast space, and felt the walkway shudder under my feet. It was followed by another clang. The shaking intensified. Clang. It reminded me rather uncomfortably of huge, heavy footsteps on the grated floor. 2 guesses what it was. Come on. I dare you. As the stomping grew louder, an even larger figure emerged from the other side of the flying brain tornado. A shape looming 15 feet tall in the dim, flickering green light. Like the pressure cooker bitch, or whatever that was. It had a largely metallic appearance, though at the same time, strangely organic. Its spindly, nearly skeletal body didn't even seem like it should have been heavy enough to rattle the floor so violently. Its long, bony feet terminating in thin, sword-like talons. Most of its weight was likely concentrated in its head, immediately recognizable as the shape of a sausage grinder, slowly wavering with each laborious step. Laborious interpretation. A pair of slimy eyeballs like the Burgrr Man's, staring down at me from one side of this huge contraption, and where there should have been a handle was only a black skeletal arm, ending in another of those white cartoon gloves. Its worst characteristic by far was the way it breathed, a hollow metallic wheeze of increasing speed and intensity, the panting of some starving dog who just caught whiff of fresh roadkill. It stepped effortlessly from one catwalk to another, like a spider scrambling in slow motion along the strands of its web. And as it drew closer, something unimaginably worse began to happen. The meat, all the meat, I had just slaughtered for at least its second time, was beginning to move once more. As one, the mutilated horrors around me began to writhe, stumble, and drag themselves toward the grinder head giant, whose single arm shot out the moment one groping, rolling pile of giblets came within its impressive reach. It lifted the shining, sticky mask up to the filth-caked funnel on the top of its grinder head and dropped it straight in. It continued to stomp its way in my general direction, scooping up more monsters and dumping them into its upper orifice until they were nearly spilling over the sides, a churning bathtub full of flesh and innards. The thing was slow, but as I ran from one end of the spider's web to the next, I found every possible exit sealed tight. And by now, the meat rising from below had almost reached my level. There was no way out. There was nothing to fight. If only I could keep running. I turned to look back at the grinder being still ponderously but relentlessly pursuing me in a straight line as I was forced to zigzag. It snatched up the last straggling monster, some sort of spider-legged white pod resembling nothing I really recognized, and dumped it in with the rest. Without slowing down, the monster clenched its now blood-soaked glove and began spinning its entire arm in its socket. I'm so sorry, there's a cat near me. If you can hear her, I apologize. Come on, Ty. Come on. Atta girl. I feel like I read this part already. And dumped it in with the rest. Without slowing down, the monster clenched its now blood-soaked glove and began spinning its entire arm in its socket. Round and around with a ratchet-like noise, the collected mutants churning and twisting as they were sucked deeper into the grinder. I turned to continue running, but made it only a few more yards before a sickling, flatulent sputtering sound echoed through the chamber, and something thick, warm, and wet slammed hard into my back. The catwalk dropped away as I was swung through the air and brought face to face with the grinder man's unblinking gaze. I was being held tight in an enormous pulpy pink hand, wavering on the end of a tentacular limb comprised entirely of raw ground meat. It had formed the limb from every walking nightmare I had spent the last of my energy putting down, and flung it like a lizard's tongue with pinpoint accuracy, instantly subduing me from a good 20 meters away. There was hair in my mouth. Ugh. I'm so sorry, I keep stopping. Wow, I lost the part. I squirmed and thrashed desperately, but only felt further mired in the dense tarry muck. The crank arm continued to twist, and more squirming noodles of processed tissue slithered along the length of its makeshift appendage, cocooning me in more layers of raw flesh. I was reminded yet again of a spider. As I sank deeper into that stinking, sloppy mire, I suddenly found myself transfixed by what was directly behind the metallic giant. I could finally see into the tower, into the vortex, down into where those wretched alien brain hatchers were all going in such a hurry. At first, I was only confused. The significance of what I was seeing almost didn't want to register. The bitter, rancid meat juices were beginning to flood my mouth. Tendrils of beef sludge were probing at my eyes and nose. My world was going black. I was being smothered to death. But on the inside, I just couldn't stop laughing. I awoke the following morning on my floor, in my home, alive. My body was caked with meat gunk, my clothes sticky with blood. Not a dream. What little must have been in my stomach promptly emptied itself onto the carpet. I guess I'd be tearing those up soon, if there was any real point. I staggered to the shower, my mind racing with all I'd seen in the meat factory. They had apparently neither wished to kill me nor erase my memories. I guess they knew, as well as I did, that there was nothing I could do to them. After all, if cattle couldn't do much to change their fate, what hope could there be for cattle feed? I tried to get a fountain Coke at 7-Eleven. Some sort of pinkish gunk coiled out like soft serve, smelling like hot bologna. I cut open what I thought was a watermelon. The inside was a lot like a brain. I unwrapped an almond joy and got nothing but a length of bone, filled with a clear yellow mush. I put money into a Coke machine. I saw the bottle tumble to the bottom. I reached through the door, and I pulled out a heart, still beating. I hurled it into the pavement and stomped it into nothing but a red, sticky stain. I came home starving, not even surprised by the flock of chickens hobbling around my front lawn, plucked and headless. I staggered to my kitchen and crashed into another box of cereal from my dwindling stash. Cat food stink, cartoon hamburger. The words superior food matter had replaced Frosted Flakes. Tony the Tiger was just a grainy photograph of a bobcat. A box of Lucky Charms now said, added to Shirine, above some shitty JPEG stock art of a nobody leprechaun. The Cheerios had become organism part. I had fluids. The rest of the box was dominated by a close-up of clammy gray intestines. I rummaged through the whole supply in the days. Red blood materials, marvelous food nugget. None of this was there when I bought it. I didn't bring home anything with a single letter out of whack. The last box used to be Cocoa Puffs, my favorite. Fred Flintstone still looked like Fred Flintstone, just far too real. I could see every pore on his lifelike, fleshy nose. This was now, apparently, a box of flavored meal substance. Whatever. What the fuck ever. I ate it. And it was goddamn delicious. So was the mysterious can of your favorite meat pieces waiting for me at my coffee table. So was the cup of what looked, smelled, and tasted like liquid bacon straight from my own tap. The black thing in the refrigerator was as sweet as maple ham, even if it looked like the bastard child of a caterpillar and a starfish. The best thing by far was the steak. The huge, red, juicy steak ready for me in the seat of my car. It wasn't even the flavor that made it so good. It was the screaming. Okay, guys, that was it. That was the end. I literally just finished the whole story. It took me so long to finish it. I don't know why, but I love you. Bye. Good night. Keep